Okay, good evening. Good evening, everyone. I think in order to get out by 10 o'clock, we need to get started now. I'd like to welcome everyone to our 17th annual meeting for the Centerville Washington Foundation. And as you will find out tonight, you'll see what we're up to. We thank you for your support, your participation, and for really helping us be a true community foundation. I'd like to start off by recognizing a couple of groups of people, and when I introduce you, if you could just kind of raise your hand and acknowledge where you are, but we have some really important people here. We have the birthday guy, Dale Berry. Dale, one of our township trustees. Happy birthday, Dale. Joyce Young, another great supporter. Jesse Lytle, our township administrator. Jesse, she had to leave, okay. Did Mark Kingseed slip in? He's coming. He's coming, so. Scott Paulson. Oh, Scott Paulson. Scott, thank you. And one of our township trustees. Did Greg Horn show up? No, he is not here, okay. I did see Brooks Compton. Brooks, welcome. And John Beals. And former mayor and great person, Sally Beals, and great Rotarian. So, I did. Oh, Joyce Young is a great Rotarian, too, I know. Carol Kennard, yeah.
Judge Dressel. Judge Fred Dressel.
Judge Fred Dressel. Thank you, Judge. I'd also like to thank the sponsors, and if you, on the program tonight, on the back, on the agenda, you'll see our sponsors. And without sponsors and supporters, we could not do the things we do at the foundation. So we had a great year. We've set some records. And more importantly, I believe we charted a path to set more records into the future. Our discretionary fund grew to a record $133,000. And we set a record for the grant distribution of $10,000, and I can assure you that your trustees have every intent to keep pushing and growing that and making the foundation and the work that we can do with that money more and more relevant. Our 13 family of funds grew by 12%, and the end of the year total was $2.3 million. And again, that is also a record. And if you look on page 10 of the program, of the annual report, you will see that there's a kind of an analysis of that, and you will be receiving that in the mail. I believe that's going to be one of our mailers. Lots of good things happened. The fall, you know, every year in the fall we have our Founders event. And this year was especially, you know, I think inspiring because of the people that we recognized. And we recognized Dr. Charles and Judy Goodwin. And it's always nice when we have a couple to recognize. And Judy had been such a supporter and so integral into our schools and the development of the youth of this area, and such a supporter for what Doc Goodwin did. And I don't know how many of you know him, but he is a scout leader extraordinaire. 230 plus Eagle Scouts that he has mentored. And that work and the irony of it, a good friend of mine, in fact, I had worked with him for many years, was a trustee at Children's Hospital. And I mentioned to him that we were honoring Dr. Goodwin, who was on the staff at Children's. And honestly, I thought the reason we were honoring him was because of his impact in scouting. But when I said this to my friend, he said, "Oh, was Charlie in scouting?" He said, "I can assure you Children's Hospital wouldn't be here without him." He said, "That man is so important to our entire community." So when you honor people like that, it gives you a really good feeling. So our mission through our marketing and through our outreach that we hope to achieve is to paint that picture for the members of our community and help to become a conduit for them to do some things that really help make themselves proud in terms of paying it forward. So our social media has become more robust, the use of social media, and I can tell you that it hasn't been, unfortunately, our young intern, Allison Kavanaugh, is not here tonight, but I can tell you that pushing our group of trustees into the social media world has not been an easy task for that young lady. You know, somebody told me the other day that we are in the third revolution of technology in the last 30 years, if you think about it. Just the use of personal computers, then just the internet, and now mobile devices, iPads, iPhones, the way we communicate. The prediction is that in the next 5 years, 70 to 80% of the traffic on the internet is going to be done by the phone. That desktop computers may be a thing of the past. So we need to figure out how do we use these devices to communicate and to get our message out. And we are working very hard on that. Last year and again this year, one of the fun events, I don't see Richard Carr, has he shown up yet? Nope, he's not here. He's not coming? Well, Richard was the guy who pushed us into our golf outing. Okay, now, for those of you, this is not a real golf, I better not say that, Richard wouldn't agree with that. We played golf at Adventure Golf because quite honestly, that kind of fit what we do much better than the real golf. And then we adjourned to Bargo's across the way and had a great time at the 19th hole. We raised over $2,000 and had a good time, and we're going to probably do it again this year. So I think is that date actually set yet, Judy? It's in June. We'll be out with June 18th. Okay, we'll be out with that more information. Now we do have a guest speaker tonight, and I'd like to introduce. Before I bring up Barbara, I want to introduce Joe Baldessar. Joe is one of the main men at the Dayton Foundation. And as you know, the Centerville Washington Foundation is really rolled up under the Dayton Foundation. You know, we're the community aspect. They provide a lot of the guidance, a lot of the support, the insurance for our golf outings. And also they take care of our investments and manage the money for us. So, Joe, thanks for coming tonight, and great. And our conscience, Janet McLafresh, is also with the Dayton Foundation. So, thank you guys for coming. Now, I would like to bring up a speaker to talk, and I'm sure she's going to talk about philanthropy and the work of the Dayton Foundation. Our guest is Barbara Stone Rock. And she's joined the Dayton Foundation in 2005 as a Legacy Partnership Program Development Officer, and now serves as the Vice President of Community Engagement. Her career includes 7 years as Executive Director of the Arthritis Foundation, Dayton Branch, and Vice President of Development for the Cancer Prevention Institute. In her spare time, Barbara volunteers at the Dayton Early College Academy and serves as a board member for the Dayton-Montgomery County Convention and Visitors Bureau, and is vice chairman of the Montgomery County Arts and Cultural District Board. She serves on the executive committee of Learn to Earn, and Barbara achieved her bachelor's degree in political science from Wright State University. Barbara, we're thankful that you had time tonight to come out and share some wisdom with us, so I would like everyone to welcome Barbara Stone Rock.
Good evening. Congratulations, Centerville, Washington Township. Centerville, I keep wanting to throw township in there. So Centerville, Washington Foundation on 17 years of successfully serving your community. Jack is right. The Centerville, Washington Foundation is rolled up into the Dayton Foundation, a component fund of the Dayton Foundation. And you nailed it exactly right. We do all of the back office pieces of the Centerville Washington Foundation. You all, the Centerville Washington Foundation family, are on the ground serving your community. We're there to help you help others in your community. So I'd like to talk a little bit about philanthropy tonight, and I have some things for us to consider as we go forward, and also talk a little bit about what the Dayton Foundation is doing in the community and how you might hook into that. The Dayton Foundation at any given time is engaged in a number of what we call community leadership initiatives, where not only are we engaged in grant making, like what you do and for the 7 organizations who are here tonight, but we also use a little bit of those dollars to engage at a systemic level and try to encourage and incubate organizations to move the needle on something that's affecting our community. And so I'll tell you a little bit about what some of those are, what some of those have been in the past. One of the things that we've just launched that we're really excited about, it's called Miami Valley Works. And it's a program to lift people out of poverty, not only to lift them out of poverty, but to get people into a working wage, a living wage job in the community. And we've modeled it after a program in Cincinnati called Cincinnati Works. Well, I'm sure all of us have read in the newspaper about poverty issues and getting people jobs. We learned something when we started investigating the Cincinnati Works model, and it's not getting someone a job. There was an article in January in the Columbus Dispatch and the Dayton Daily News that talked about a $66 million state jobs program, and we think, wow, that's good, I guess, right? $1 million had been spent to date, and they were reporting on the number of jobs that had been procured out of the $1 million that was spent around the state. And 256 jobs were landed for people. After 90 days, does anyone want to guess how many of those people were still in their jobs? Only 5 people were still in those jobs after 90 days. So concurrently, we're looking at this. We've been investigating some of the poverty issues in our community, and we think, well, this doesn't sound right. Why isn't this working? It sounds like getting people a job isn't maybe the issue. There's something else going on. At the same time, we learned about this Cincinnati Works program, where not only does that organization help get people jobs, but for several months beforehand, they work on the barrier removals. A lot of us may not understand that something as basic as having a driver's license or not is a barrier. 20% of the people who were working with the Cincinnati group had drug or alcohol issues, self-medicating for mental health issues. Something very simple that may seem like a simple thing for us to solve was childcare. Having to pay for childcare or not having access to childcare. So this organization, Cincinnati Works, was doing all of these barrier removal things successfully, and they offered coaches, individual coaches, to people who were going through the program. They have an 83% success rate after 3 years of keeping people in their jobs. So the Dayton Foundation's thinking, how can the Dayton Foundation bring this to our community? So as we do, and as I know you do very well, because Centerville Washington Foundation is a partner with the Dayton Foundation, we don't do much of anything without partnering with other organizations so that we can leverage each other's assets. We connected with Goodwill Easter Seals in our community, and we put a task force together. We brought on a number of partners, Clothes That Work, Adamus, a lot of local partners who could help us lift this. We helped raise $2.1 million for the initiative, and Goodwill has just launched this program this week. They're going to have 50 people come through their first cohort, and hopefully we'll be helping people get jobs, keep jobs, contribute to the community. And the best part about this is not only is it getting a job and all of those good things that come with it, but after this person has been stabilized for 1 to 2 years of showing up on time and making progress and doing all the good things that you do to keep a job, we talk with them about progression, because minimum wage isn't going to help you with a living wage, especially if you have kids. So these coaches help people identify potential career opportunities and how to grow and what is interesting and perhaps get certifications. So that's a little bit of what we're doing. We've spent some time on that. $300,000 was granted by the Dayton Foundation to help with this project, along with the Mateel Family Foundation and CareSource. Goodwill also put their own money in. So 3 years will be the pilot phase for this, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we can duplicate those results in Dayton that Cincinnati did, lifting people out of poverty. One of the other neat projects we're working on, I think some of you may have heard about Learn to Earn Dayton. I see a few shaking heads. This is a early learning to graduation initiative in the community. So this Learn to Earn initiative is working on that in our community. We're working with early learning organizations that get youth ready for being successful in kindergarten. When you're successful in kindergarten, we're hoping that we'll then get students who are successful in passing the 3rd grade reading test. We've all been reading about that in the newspaper. 3rd grade reading, passing 3rd grade reading is a #1 indicator for college going down the road, how well you pass 3rd grade reading. And so as we're hopefully progressing students along this positive pathway, at the end, it used to be just graduating high school was important, right? Getting a high school diploma is very important, but in our economy now, with advanced manufacturing and all of the things that require at least a certification, we need our students not only graduating, but then going on and saying, what am I going to do? So Learn to Earn Dayton has started, among the many activities that they do and the metrics that they're measuring, they've started a signing day. We all read in the paper how so-and-so committed to Ohio State to play football. You know, that's a big deal in our communities. It's wonderful. Well, you don't really see signing days for your next academic achievement. So Learn to Earn has started in our 17 school districts across our county, a signing day. And they're all going to have one on various days where students are committing to say, I'm going into the Air Force, or I'm getting a certification in logistics management, or I'm going into advanced manufacturing, or I'm going to Purdue. And it's about what's next. And so the Dayton Foundation became involved in this as well. We helped to convene the Learn to Earn initiative. Dr. Tom Lasley, the former Dean of Education at the University of Dayton, is the executive director. He lives at the Dayton Foundation, and we help him with his back office and you know, all of the financial pieces that wrap around his fund that he works. But the ultimate goal is to get people contributing to our community. You probably are sensing a theme with the Dayton Foundation. We want our community to be vibrant. We want our partners to help us with that. If there is an interest in plugging into any of the initiatives at a volunteer leadership level or with your thinking, we always certainly welcome that. One of the initiatives or potential initiatives that we're really excited about, and Carol Farquhar-Nugent has helped us with some thought leadership on this, is we had a donor who said, if you had $1 million, isn't that a great way to start the conversation? Yeah, we always like that. He said, if you had $1 million to move the needle, so we're talking systemic level, move the needle, on some issue affecting older adults in your community, what would that be? Well, at the Dayton Foundation, because we're a community foundation, we say we're an inch deep and a mile wide, so we know a little bit about arts, environment, animals, health, human services, right? So we said, we'll get back to you on that. So we have been on a listening tour, talking with individuals who are experts in the field of elder care. It's A to Z, as I'm sure you can sit here and start thinking. It's caregiving, it's isolation, falls. 39% of older adults have hearing problems. And Jerry Tater, some of you who know, was one of our board members, said, have you talked to Carol Farquhar-Nugent? Do you know her? And we said, well, yeah, we know her. She's fantastic. Well, she used to be the executive director of Grant Makers in Aging, which was based in Dayton, Ohio. What a fabulous resource. So she's helped us with some of this thinking. We're narrowing in on because of the role of private philanthropy can't solve some of these issues like curing Alzheimer's disease or some of the things that just private philanthropy can't do by itself with only $1 million. But we're narrowing in on what we think will be an exciting opportunity for older adults in our community to engage in encore careers. Some of you who read the Wall Street Journal may be familiar with their encore section, where they talk about older adults who've gone into second careers, a lot of them in nonprofit organizations. So we're hopeful that we can start a talent development program for older adults in our region to engage with the not-for-profit sector, board leadership, volunteerism. You as the Centerville Washington Foundation know how important your volunteers are. Your board leadership is volunteers. And if we can leverage more older adult assets onto our local organizations, we think that could be a good thing for the community. So stay tuned for that one. Jack's mentioned the word philanthropy about 5 times tonight, and I think I have too. And I just want to leave you with some thinking on how we engage in our philanthropy. The Dayton Foundation is number 2 in the country, of all community foundations. There are about 800 of them, in the number of funds and the number of grants that are made. The Miami Valley is a very philanthropic region. We give back. We want to take care of our communities. And you, our Centerville Washington Foundation family, help make that number. You help make us number 2 in the community. You are very philanthropic. You get it. Social Venture Partners out of Seattle, Paul Shoemaker, he's a thought leader on philanthropy, and he has some kind of interesting ideas, some different thinking, innovative thinking on how we think about our philanthropy. So I'm just going to leave you with some of his thoughts. It's something you can talk about as a community or as a board. He's challenging us to think about how we build capacity for nonprofits and how we serve our not-for-profit communities through our grant making. He says you need to do these 5 things all together, not just one or 2 at a time. You need to do all of these at the same time in order to make collective impact in your community. So he says, the first thing you need to do, grant makers, and the Dayton Foundation is guilty of this for our discretionary grant making program, stop making organizations chase program grants, or we want to do this program, or we want to expand this, or launch that. Just give them money for operating. Don't tie it to anything in particular. Organizations need unrestricted giving without ties to it. Let them operate their organizations. They know what they're doing. They're the experts. The Dayton Foundation Grants Committee, we say we don't do operating. We don't fund operating. So again, this is a challenge to your thinking. The number 2 thing he says to think about is, as you're doing this unrestricted, no strings attached grant making, you need to do it long term. Not just one-time gifts or every other year based on whatever the program is next time. Again, the Dayton Foundation, we say we don't do operating, we don't do long-term grant making typically, but in order to make organizations truly viable, Paul Shoemaker says, you need to consider supporting organizations over the long haul, not 3 years, but over 10 years, thinking about that. I don't know. He also says you need to build fabulous, fantastic boards who are engaged in stewardship, not as overseers of the money, but as stewards of your communities. And I think this especially is where Centerville Washington Foundation, I think, can check the box. When Janice was out of the office for a few weeks last year, I had the pleasure of covering a meeting for the Centerville Washington Foundation board, and I was so jazzed when I came back from the meeting the next day because, I tell Diane, these guys get it. They really get it. They really are concerned about serving their communities and making their communities better places. So engaging your boards as not only overseers of the financial dollars, but overseers of your communities. He also talks about working together, working with your other grant-making peers. The Dayton Foundation does this a little bit. When we put an initiative together, we always want other funders at the table. We want collective impact, not only for the data, the metrics on the back end, but getting the all-in, getting the buy-in. And I think we all do that too. We partner together on some of our grant making. But he says, see what your peers are doing and what their metrics are doing in grant making. And then last, he says, and this makes intellectual sense, but I don't know that we do it enough, listen to your beneficiaries. He doesn't mean listening to the nonprofit organizations where you've made the grants. So I know Marlene, where is Marlene? I'm going to pick on Marlene. Hi, with Therapeutic Writing Institute. So for example, after a grant is made, we call Marlene and say, hey, can you get that final report into us? And oh, that's great, and then it goes into a file. Paul Shoemaker is challenging philanthropists and people who do grant making to think about how we engage not only the not-for-profit organizations where we're making grants, but the beneficiaries, the clients who have been served. Ask them what they want. Ask them, funders, I know Marlene asks, but funders need to ask, can we co-create programs together? And so that is what he challenges us with. And so I leave you with those thoughts tonight. I know for the Dayton Foundation Grants Committee, these thoughts are, it flips our thinking, and I think at the minimum we ought to probably think about how we engage our philanthropy, not only as individuals but as grant-making organizations, and how we engage our communities. So hopefully that's challenged your thinking a little bit this evening, and once again, congratulations on your past 17 years of success, and to the 7 organizations here tonight who are receiving grants, and thank you so much for your partnership with the Dayton Foundation.
Barbara, thank you very much, and we might ask for some the outline of that speech, because I do agree. I see that we need to change our philosophy in looking at the organizations that I've personally been involved with, and I know that so much of the funding is program driven, and you talk about forcing short-term thinking. That forces short-term thinking. And I think what you need to do is to take a look at long-term. We certainly look at improving board operations at every level. I'm personally involved with Mateel family and Aileron and looking at the planning, and we really push for strategic planning, long-term thinking, and I see this in every organization. And Barbara, what you said tonight makes perfect sense. So thank you very much. Next, I want to introduce Steve Wenstrup. Steve chairs our marketing committee, and we have gone through a big development on our website, and I think he's going to kind of give us some overview there. Thank
you, sir. Good evening, and I think I'm one of the newer members. I've been here about a year. And social media, internet, website is probably one of the biggest delivery points of marketing. We actually have a young lady who was going to be here tonight and do this presentation, Allison Cavanaugh, a junior at University of Dayton, that can smoke us all in knowing this stuff. So tonight, this afternoon, Bob and I got a call, and Allison said, I'm so sick, I don't think I can stand up. We were able to, with the help of Jason here, take Bob's computer. Bob was fortunate enough to have an Apple computer, which the young kids all have, and we were able to upload it, use the internet here, and give you a rolling video of our new website that's not launched yet. It'll be probably out in a couple days, because we realize it's very important to communicate in the future now the way that everyone younger than us is going to communicate. You know, we need to communicate with people who are going to be our volunteers, our donors, and also the people that need our help. You know, we're learning even though we've been around 17 years, I think we're a small foundation, but we really want to get big. You know, Jack talks a lot about this. We want to give away a lot of money, you know, and finding, believe it or not, finding the folks that need your money, it's not as easy as I thought. I thought that should be easy, but, you know, every year we put out requests. We try to give away more money every year, so we need help from people. So we're trying to communicate more, not only with donors, who we need help with obviously raising money, but we need help finding those that are really in need in our community. And I think there's a lot of that. We're finding more and more every year. So CentrvilleWashingtonFoundation.org is our website. We're hoping to make it CwFoundation.org just to make the typing a little easier. So we're working on that as well. So I appreciate you all coming and being patient, viewing our new site, and we look forward to having you all come and see us. Thank you.
Saw that Mayor Kingseed came in. Mayor Kingseed, thank you very much for coming tonight. Also, the next is kind of the administrative side. I'm going to bring in Judy Buddy, and Judy is our vice president and former president, and she's going to take care of the administrative part of the business of the meeting and wrap it up. So thank you, Judy.
Thanks, Jack. So Bob Yuck was going to be here and he got sick, and Allison Kavanaugh was going to be here and she got sick. I'm knocking on wood, I don't get sick. So the first thing I want to do at an annual meeting, we elect our board, and that's one of the functions of our annual meeting. And so I'm going to introduce our new board members and then call for a motion. So Paul Hines, and if you guys could just stand when I call your name, has been on the board for multiple terms, and he's going to start his 3rd term, so we're glad that he's going to continue. Carol Farquhar-Nugent has served 1 term, and she has agreed to continue for a 2nd term, so we're very happy about that. And then our 1st term board members, which we're very glad that they've agreed to join the board and bring great skill. You know, this is really a volunteer driven. We don't have any staff. So without these great volunteer board members, we don't get a lot done. So we're very happy that Gene Hambrick is going to join our board. He was telling me earlier that he's been in the community 5 years, so we're going to bring his knowledge of other areas to the board. Bob Hansman, who is a local attorney, is going to join our board, and Carol Kennard. I think many of you know Carol. She's lived in the community over 30 years and recently retired, and we reeled her in. She's a great community volunteer. So that would be the 5 people I present from the nominating committee to be board members for the next 3-year term. If I could just call for a motion from the floor. Thank you, Joyce. And a second? Thank you, Dale. And then all those in favor say aye. Aye. Great. Thank you very much. And now I want to give out our spring grant awards. And Barbara, I appreciate your comments, and Jack's as well. You know, as a board, we have about $130,000 in discretionary funds, and we talk every year about how much of that do we give away, and we're told that, you know, best practice is you give away 4%, and we want to give away half, but, you know, you have to keep raising money if you want to do that. And then we also talk about, we've got a lot of community leaders here. We all need to work together. We've got a small community, we've got generous people, and then how can we as a foundation kind of support and lead our community through this philanthropy need that we have, so that we're not tapping the same people all the time, and how can we work together to do that? So that's part of what we want to do. But in the meantime, we have 2 grant cycles every year, one in March and one in September. And this year, in our annual report, you'll see we gave out $10,000 in grants last year. That's the most we've ever given out in 1 year. So you'll see pictures of those. The Historical Society is on the front there. On page 6, you'll see an article about the Alzheimer's Association. We gave their Memory Resource Center a relatively small grant, but with that money, they were able to create an art program. And Katie, you just want to wave your hand, Katie, so everybody knows who you are. She has a display back there, and if you've seen these cards, and on the back, they actually tell the story of the person who wrote this one, or whose cards they are. So, for example, the artist, which is usually someone that has dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and so they're expressing their hopes, their dreams, and their art through this. And Bob Daly and Gene Hambrick and I had the opportunity to go to the art show that they had about a month ago, and to see the camaraderie that not only the individuals that do the art, but the families that join them for the program, and what a difference. I call it a support group extraordinaire, because it's not people that just come in and talk about their dementia and gain support from each other, but they're people who, through something like art, are able to bond together. And So this one says, you know, Jean makes an everyday happier for those who encounter her at the Memory Resource Center. She's always quick to ask others and share a smile, and she gives a kiss from her finger to the forehead of the person she wants to encourage, and she reminds them that this kiss is to go straight to their heart. So I think, Katie, you're selling these back there for $10, right? If anybody wants to support them. Because I would say the thing we realize is almost every one of our grant applications really needed more money than we were able to fund. So we appreciate your support here tonight, and we appreciate your support of all the events we do throughout the year, because that's what helps us be able to fund the programs. And in the center of our annual report highlights those that received grants last year. So please take this home. I'm sure we'll have extras if you need them. Bob will have some that you can have. On the back of your program is the list of who gets our grants this year, and so I have those checks to present. And from the police department, Captain Mark Casey's here. We're funding a new program that they're going to do through their Explorer program, a program that's supported youth for many years, and we're happy to give you a check to help that out. Thank you. The Castle. You know, the Castle's been a program, Barbara, when you mentioned supporting programs through the long haul, I think this is the third year in a row that we've supported the transportation program, and before that, some other programs at the Castle. A lot of people don't even know where the Castle is located, right there on 48 in Centerville, but providing social and emotional programs for people with mental health challenges in our community, and we're very pleased to support them with a $1,500 grant.
Thank you.
Food to Go. Food to Go is a program that we've kind of lost contact with over the last few years, but they sent us a grant request, and let's see, Living Hope Church is the church that's currently coordinating our program. We talked about the needs gone from $10,000 a year to $40,000 a year. Yeah. Over $40,000 a year, and I think the church has been very generous. So we are able to give them a grant for $1,500, a little drop in the bucket, but they are working very hard to feed hungry children in our community, and we think we live in a pretty affluent community, and you're going to see we actually have 2 programs that we're funding that are helping hungry people in our community. So best of luck to you. The next is the Feeding Friends food pantry that Harmony Creek United Church is doing, and I think to accept that program, to the check, I'm sorry, is Tim Schaefer, and we're going to provide them a $1,200 grant. Hannah's Treasure Chest, another small nonprofit in our community that does a lot of good work. We're providing $750 for their general assistance program, and here to accept that is Stu Merrill, the chair of their board. So thank you very much. Hither Green is, again, a long-term partner of the foundation, and we're glad this year to be able to support them as they're transitioning to a new location and money to support furniture and equipment that they're going to need. So thank you. Thank you. And the Therapeutic Writing Institute, if you're not familiar with that program, they also have a display over here. Really using horses to provide therapeutic support to individuals, special needs children, vets who are returning from war, troubled youth, and so we're able to fund the horses and support for that program, and Marlene's here to accept that. So thank you. So please have some more food, visit the displays. The reason we do these displays are because, you know, they're the people that we've funded over the years. They're the community groups that continue to need support from our community. We want to highlight what they do so that you can see how your support helps them. We appreciate you coming out this evening. We know your time is very valuable. Many of you have many things that you could choose to do, and the fact that you came to support the Centerville Washington Foundation tonight is, we really, really appreciate it. And we thank the sponsors in there highlighted on the bottom of your program. So have a great evening. Oh, board members, don't forget Bob Daly wants a picture of us out in the hallway.